Design systems have a big problem, and it's not what you'd expect. Design systems are the enemy of 99% of designers, not because they're hard to set up or manage. The real issue? They mess with how designers think, distract from what really matters, and hold back career growth. Design systems make designers in the real world worse. If you don't know when or where to use them, you're just wasting time. At the college where I teach, I've seen hundreds of students struggle because of this, but I've also seen how small, practical techniques, like the ones we'll discuss today, have literally turned things around for them. The students who embraced these practices not only did better in class, but went on to find more success afterwards. But here's the thing, we need to talk about more than just their benefits. It's about having the right mindset and knowing when, where, and how to use them. So who's hurting our industry? Why is this obsession with design systems a thing? And who's driving it? What I'm about to share is all backed by science, but like many things, it's not as straightforward as it seems. We get the idea. If we've got repeating elements in a design and need to update something like a button, we don't want to change it manually across every layout. Instead, we make a master button and duplicate it. This saves loads of time when updating shared elements, and that's how a basic UI kit begins. So, what's this in simple terms? It's the foundation of the project, a small core that could grow into a full system later. Think of it as a thread linking all your layouts. Next, we build out the UI kit, adding buttons, colors, and styles, creating more of these threads. This speeds up workflows and brings in standardization, which is generally a good thing. It also makes it easier for designers and developers to work together. How often have you seen a beginner start by making a UI kit? For me, I've been hooked ever since the early days of components, back when we had smart layers in Photoshop. Yep, in Photoshop. That's how we designed interfaces 20 years ago, before modern tools. And here's where the first trap appears: perfectionism. One of the biggest traps for designers, especially those moving from junior to mid-level, is perfectionism. It can hold them back for years, slowing down career growth and professional development. How do we avoid this? The answer is a clear, structured workflow. Knowing what to do and when keeps you from getting stuck. For example, many designers waste time perfecting elements that aren't important yet. Even worse, some jump into building complex systems, like a UI kit, before it's needed. Here's a common scenario. You spot a repeating element, like a button, in multiple layouts. It feels logical to turn it into a component with all its variations, large, small, with or without icons. Then you add inputs, radio buttons, and more. Instead of focusing on key tasks, you're now busy building a system no one asked for. Why does this happen? Designers are naturally drawn to perfectionism. Once you start a design system, you feel like you have to finish it. It's frustrating to see so many articles and videos hyping design systems, knowing how often designers fall into this trap. Figma communities are full of beautiful, systematic templates, but almost no one talks about the downsides. There's little advice on when to use them or what problems they're meant to solve. These critical details are often ignored. This is the cult of design systems I'm talking about, a mindset that, in my opinion, is hurting our industry. Think I'm exaggerating? Why do I say drawing buttons, inputs, checkboxes, and radio buttons is a problem? Sure, we've agreed it speeds things up. Making all the basic elements might only take a couple of hours. Then you just reuse them. Grab an input field when you need one. A few hours of work doesn't sound like a big deal, right? And on the surface, it's not. But let's dig a bit deeper. Research shows that setting up design systems often comes with hefty costs, training staff, building new infrastructure, and more. And here's the kicker. The costs usually outweigh the savings. Another study points out that involving users in the process can cause confusion and frustration. Why? These systems often feel rigid and inflexible. But the bigger question isn't just about businesses or users. What about the designers? How do these systems affect their work? Multiple studies highlight the same pattern. Design systems standardize everything. This reduces creativity, turns design into repetitive tasks, and kills job satisfaction. The outcome? Lower quality designs and less inspired work. It's a consistent theme backed by several major studies. Why does this happen? Let's look at how the brain works. I'm no scientist, so forgive the oversimplification. Our brain has different modes. One is systematizing, focused on analysis. The other is the creative mode, brainstorming and coming up with fresh ideas. This is synthesis. For the creative mode to work, boundaries and rigid systems need to stay out of the way. Creativity thrives on specifics and grounded ideas, while systematizing zooms out to see the bigger picture. These two modes clash. they don't work well together. You might argue that constraints boost creativity. Think of Jurassic Park. Budget and tech limitations forced the team to create a film that still looks incredible decades later. Or the French New Wave. Directors like Godard set strict limits for themselves, sparking groundbreaking film-making techniques. I agree. Here's a fun exercise for designers. Take a project brief and add a couple of tough constraints. For example, use only bright yellow and blue and include at least 5 different typefaces. These colors clash, and so many typefaces usually scream bad design. But this forces you to think creatively to make it work. See how constraints can be very different. A UI kit isn't the kind of constraint that sparks creativity. It's more like a set of instructions that tells you exactly what to do. It forces the brain into a structured, systematized mode. And switching back to creative thinking isn't quick or easy. There's a popular idea that designers are like engineers and need a systematic approach to their work. That's partly true. A big part of the job is about creating patterns for user behavior. You gather data, map user journeys, and integrate them into the design, mostly using established patterns. These patterns are tried and tested, and most importantly, familiar to users. All of this is true, but as usual, it's only half the story. First off, not all patterns are fully formed yet. We're in a time where new patterns are emerging thanks to AI tools. The old ones just don't cut it anymore. If you've worked on AI interfaces, you've probably noticed users reject them more often. That's because the way we interact with AI is totally different from traditional interfaces. And right now, there are no new patterns users are familiar with. Solving this calls for creativity. It's a bit like science. You need structure for the paperwork and planning, but when it comes to forming hypotheses or generating ideas, creativity is key. The same goes for design. We need creative thinking to invent new patterns and refine existing ones for user interactions. And let's not forget the visual side. The UI itself needs a strong concept. Many modern interfaces look boring, but aesthetics still matter. We're human. Culture and beauty still influence us. To balance it all, we need to encourage creative, artistic thinking. I'm not against design systems, by the way. I'm just saying we need to add creativity, not ditch structure, at least in the stages where creativity is vital. Let me ask you, have you ever made a folder system for a project on Google Drive or your computer only to find it doesn't work? Files still end up scattered on your desktop or in downloads. Most of us have been there. Surprisingly, this is the same problem as trying to use a system to define something's essence. Why does this happen? Because instead of thinking practically, we let ideology take over. This mindset treats us as ultra-organized, professional, systematic, and rational. In design, the main symbol of this is the design system. It's the same with any structure. You end up bending everything to fit it, and eventually it stifles creativity and exploration. The fix is simple. Rethink your design process, change your perspective, and the whole approach shifts. A design system is just a tool. A structure is just a tool. It should only serve the tasks at hand, nothing more. Never build a system for the future. Only create it for what's already there. This rule works beyond design. It's universal. Take urban design, for instance. The best urban planners don't map out paths in advance. They watch where people naturally walk across lawns and then pave those paths. That's how systems can support what's already working, born from organic, creative processes. Design works the same way. Need a recurring button? That doesn't mean you should create an entire UI kit. Just make that button a component and leave it at that for now. Starting a new app screen. Design the screen itself. Don't start with a structure or template from your UI kit. Begin with a blank page and rough sketches. Let the structure follow the design, not the other way around. Otherwise, the system ends up running you, not helping you. And that defeats the whole point. Designers love structure. We like to see ourselves as engineers or scientists, systems, thinkers who can also be creative. But whenever I post about this on LinkedIn, plenty of people argue that I'm wrong, saying designers should focus more on development than creativity. And that misses the point. It's all about using tools rationally and avoiding ideology. Design is about users, the product and its goals, not the tools or systems around it. A design system is just that, a tool. It should work for you, not control you. The idea of systematizing everything is tempting. It offers a neat action plan, a way to become a better designer. That's why books like Atomic Design and countless videos on this topic are so popular. And those books, they're brilliant, but their message often gets lost. People focus on the visible, easy stuff, the kind that gains social approval. Simple solutions always attract a crowd. Think about tarot cards or cheap self-help courses. They offer quick, easy answers that feel satisfying but often lack depth. The obsession with design systems on social media is the same. Like those courses, it has its benefits, but the downsides often outweigh them. The issue isn't the systems themselves, it's the cult-like mentality around them. Blindly adopting a design system for every project feeds perfectionism. And perfectionism is the biggest obstacle for designers at a certain stage in their growth. The real fix: processes. Processes are all about knowing what to do and when. In my studio, we've worked on hundreds of large, complex projects, and here's one of our core rules. At the wireframe stage, we don't use components, auto layouts, styles, or variables. Our wireframes are ugly, deliberately so. We don't waste time making them look good, even when presenting them to clients. Why? Because this stage is about breaking free from perfectionism. It helps us move faster and deliver better results. Early on, you need to ditch systematization and focus on exploring ideas. During wireframing, we experiment with behavior patterns and explore new ways to solve problems. When we move to the UI, we focus on finding a key visual and pushing it further. Only after the concept is solid, tested, and approved do we bring in structure. And so no, design systems aren't the enemy. The real problem is letting systems define the essence of your work. That's the root of the cult of design systems. Remember, we're designers. We create the essence. Structure should follow, not lead. And if you want proof, just look at real life. The most design-focused companies follow this approach. They start with creativity and only later build systems around it. The early stages often look messy. That's how you nurture great ideas. Take Apple, for example. Watch videos on how Apple's design process has evolved. It's a brilliant case study showing how creativity comes first and systems follow. It's a method every designer can learn from.